What's going on, guys? Big one today. Some serious news just dropped. Binance and CZ have been sued by the CFTC over regulatory violations. So this news is less than an hour old. It comes from Bloomberg. And basically, the story is that Binance, which is obviously the world's largest crypto exchange, is being sued by the U.S. Commodity Futures Trading Commission for breaking trading and derivatives rules. The suit effectively argues that, at worst, Binance has actively pushed U.S. users to the platform, even while saying they're not, encouraging them to use VPNs, and at best has not done a very good job of preventing them from accessing that exchange's features, which includes derivatives trading. Because of that, they are in violation of CFTC rules because they haven't registered. And effectively, they're saying that Binance is allowing Americans to use an unregistered commodities or derivatives platform without the proper pathways, right? Without the proper registration. So that's the basic gist of what's going on here. But I think there's a lot more to this story. There are many implications. And so I want to kind of expand it out, put it in context, and then see where it leaves us and how people are reacting to it. Obviously, since FTX, all eyes have been on Binance. Binance is the largest exchange in the world. It had even less competition following FTX. And in some ways, part of the FTX failure story was that Binance and Sam, CZ and Sam, had been going at each other. Binance accused Sam of effectively trying to poison the well for Binance behind the scenes. Sam basically came out and said that CZ wasn't welcome in Washington, D.C. based on the conversations that they were having. So there was a lot of tit for tat. It went into clearly the decision for Binance to pull their holdings of FTT and declare it very publicly. Anyways, this was all going on at the end of last year. And around that time, Reuters came out and reported that the U.S. Justice Department had been long considering whether to bring charges against Binance, but ended up not doing so. They were split effectively. And so this only contributed to this larger question of whether there would be forthcoming U.S. regulatory action against Binance. Now, many have considered it a foregone conclusion ever since the actions that we've seen around Coinbase and others, that at some point we'd see something coming at Binance as well, and certainly CZ seems to be effectively making that case. He tweets for anytime there is a regulatory FUD or any other type of FUD. For is his code for saying it's just FUD. This isn't something you need to be concerned with. That's CZ's take. Now, what about what the rest of the market is discussing and talking about as relates to this case? Well, one of the notable pieces of this, as Anthony Sassano points out here, is that the CFTC suit claims that ETH is a commodity. So it comes from this specific section that says leveraged retail commodity transactions involving digital assets that are commodities, including Bitcoin, Ether, and Litecoin. Now, there's actually another section that reinforces this again. Certain digital assets, including Bitcoin, ETH, Litecoin, and at least two fiat-backed stablecoins, Tether and Binance USD, as well as other virtual currencies, as alleged herein, are commodities. This matters especially because we recently saw that New York Attorney General action against KuCoin, which claimed that Ether was a security. So once again, we're seeing the tension between whether Ethereum's Ether is a security or a commodity. We have this lawsuit now against Binance arguing that Ether is a commodity, which has long been the CFTC's position. Now, this is a bright side because of that larger battle that's going on around Ether and it being designated or at least claimed to be a security for the first time in that other case. So that's definitely one line of conversation is what this means in that side. Now, another bit of conversation is the extent to which there will be criminal charges forthcoming, whether this is more than just a civil suit, whether this is more than just something that Binance has to deal with and move on, right? So Cantor and Clark's here says, from what I am seeing, CZ could easily face criminal charges if market manipulation, trading desk, and money laundering rumors are real. Part of what he's referring to here are buried or sort of deep within this suit. So again, Tier 10K DB says CFTC on Binance internal trading desk. Binance has traded on its own platforms through approximately 300 house accounts that are all directly or indirectly owned by CZ. CZ has also traded on the Binance platform through 2 individual accounts. This was always something that surrounded FTX as a big concern, right? That Alameda Research might be using proprietary information to trade against its customers. Now, what we ended up finding out with FTX is that it was even worse than that, and worse than just Alameda maybe getting access to some FTX information that they shouldn't have. Alameda obviously having a basically unlimited line of credit bankrolled by FTX customers, but it's still a pretty serious accusation to suggest that Binance is trading against its own customers. Another thing that has been pointed out in this suit is that it seems that there are records of CZ's private conversations, right? So this is Bennett Tomlin from the Crypto Critics podcast pointing out this section that shows signal text chains or group chats collected from CZ's telephone that include a group chat, blah, 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 blah. The details, I think, are less important than the fact, as Bennett points out, that it seems that the feds have CZ's phone. They say explicitly collected from CZ's telephone, but that hasn't stopped people from speculating about exactly how the CFTC got so many of these chats. This, I think, picture kind of says it all in terms of what people are speculating about where this information might have come from. There's no good evidence for that yet. For most people, it's just interesting speculation. But again, people have wondered if Sam was ever to cut a deal with the feds, what would it be? Well, information about Binance might be part of what he's interested in sharing. Now, I think that broadly speaking, a lot of crypto Twitter have this feeling like, of course, the US government is going after Binance. Of course, they're going after CZ. And sort of that the US government has effectively lost credibility here. Stack Hodler puts it pretty simply, Binance and CZ sued by the CFTC. US government was cool with SBF drafting crypto legislation with Gensler and sending user funds to politicians. But ever since their boy got exposed, it's been an all-out assault on all things crypto by the US government. Now, that is, I think, a pretty popular take, but I wanted to see what people really thought, whether this was concerning to them, whether it was expected, so who cares, or whether it was concerning even though they expected it. And right now, I've had about 250 people vote on this. 9% said it's actually concerning. 39.3% said that it's expected, but still concerning. And then 51.6% said it's expected, so shrug. So you really have kind of a 50-50 split between people who think that this is cause for concern versus this is just the government being, doing what they were inevitably going to do in this context. We'll see how, as more information comes out, if that changes at all. Now, the markets obviously do not like this. Bitcoin is down, 4% or something like that in the last hour, a big dip. And in some ways, this was probably inevitable. Bitcoin's been on a tear ever since the beginning of the bank crisis. There were many people who thought it was sort of coming to the end of its run, at least it needed a pause. And this might have not been sort of just the entire driver, but was just a catalyst for a downward move that needed to happen in some ways for a breather in this larger rally. Again, we'll get a little bit more information when it's not the first hour after this happened in terms of really, how deleterious it's going to be to crypto prices overall. Now, there's going to be a lot more to this story. It's something that we'll come back to all week, I'm sure. But I did want to also point out that there's this other part of the conversation that I think Binance has an integral stake in. CZ, before this came out, tweeted an article about Chinese banks courting crypto firms in Hong Kong. And this is something that I've talked about before on both the breakdown, the podcast, as well as these breakdown bites on YouTube, that there seems to be, as the US gets more hostile to crypto, an openness returning to to crypto in China, specifically through the venue of Hong Kong, off the mainland. And CZ says when one door closes, another one opens. I think it's pretty telegraphed given that what the news that we got just a few hours later. So this is something, again, I'm going to come back to this story about crypto, about Chinese banks going after crypto firms and the realignment of the global power system that might entail. But anyways, guys, that's the story. Binance has been sued by the CFTC. It certainly feels like the next shoe to drop. It doesn't mean anything in the short term. It just means that there's a lawsuit now, and we'll have to see what happens next. To the extent you're looking for a bright side, if you are not into the US government determining what is a security without actually explaining why, then you'll be happy to hear that ETH has been written up as a commodity in this lawsuit. But it's a lot going on. The week is off to another big start, and we'll be here to cover it all. Thanks, guys. Talk to you soon. Peace.